Hello, Chaplain Stephen Longclough here with the United States Coast Guard Base Elizabeth City in North Carolina. Today we're shooting a video out of my house because if you're anything like me, you've had to learn what working a modified schedule looks like in the midst of quarantine. And it's about the quarantine that I want to talk about today. It's actually more about coming out of quarantine and what that is going to look like and really reflecting on our time in quarantine. It's easy for us to focus on the negative things that happen to us in quarantine. And there have certainly been a fair share of negative things. But perhaps you had to deal with the loss of a job or the loss of financial security, or maybe you know someone who got sick and possibly even passed away from the virus. I in no way wish to diminish those experiences whatsoever. My heart goes out to you if that's you. Even in the midst of those bad things, though, there's always good things. There's always blessings. And it's the corona blessings that I want to focus our attention on today. How has God worked in your life to bring about good things? When the quarantine first began, I feel like the Lord gave me a verse, Romans 8:28. Romans 8:28 goes like this: all things work together for good, for those who love God and are called according to his purpose. Now, if all things work together for good, or rather I should say because all things work together for good, we can look around our lives and see those good things that God is working in our lives. Either God is working in our souls or the good things that are happening outside of us. As I've thought about those good things, I came up with a list of four corona blessings, and I want to share that list with you today. I encourage you to share your own list of corona blessings in the comment section because I'd love to celebrate those. Number one, the first of my corona blessings. I have been forced to think about eternal things, particularly I've been forced to wrestle with my own mortality. Now, that doesn't sound like a lot of fun, and I promise you it wasn't when I was doing it. It was easy for me when the virus first happened. My temptation was to basically say, I'm not in the 65 and older category. I'm not in that at-risk category. So I'm going to be okay for this virus. I'm going to get through it and no problems. Instead, I chose to dwell with the idea of death. Death is something that comes for us all, and sooner or later, we're all going to have to reckon with our own mortality. I chose to think about what would happen if I died. Am I really ready to meet my Creator? Am I really ready to meet the Lord? What would happen if my wife died? What would my life look like without my wife? Focusing on my own mortality and wrestling with my own mortality not only got me spiritually ready to pass away, which has been wonderful, but it's also focused my attention on those things that are truly important in life. And it's to those two things, I have two things that I wish to turn to next in my list of corona blessings. So the first thing that the Lord did, the first corona blessing was I focused on the eternal things, particularly my own death, my own mortality. Second is I was able to invest more time with my kids. I got two boys, a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and they are every bit of boy as you can imagine, full of energy, and they love to run around. And of course, if you have kids and you've been at home with the kids, that can be stressful at times. But it's been really good for me to spend some time with my kids. The time is a commodity. How are you going to invest your time? We only have so many hours in a day. We only have so many hours in a week. We only have so many hours in a year. When we die, our children are going to stand over our graves. Our children will be the ones who bury us. At that point, we will no longer have an opportunity to play with our kids. We'll no longer have an opportunity to talk with our kids. We'll no longer have an opportunity to be mom or to be dad to our kids. That time's over. So this coronavirus and quarantine time was a really, really good time for me to choose to purposely spend time with my children. And of course they loved it too. They loved spending time with dad. That was a wonderful thing. The next thing in my list of four corona blessings is I was able to pray more with my wife. Now, as a Navy chaplain, a Coast Guard chaplain, and an Anglican minister, an Anglican priest, I'm already in the habit of praying regularly in the morning. And my wife is also in the habit of praying regularly in the morning. But with our schedules, we'd have to pray separately. Now that I'm working a modified schedule, I'm working at home a lot, we were able to bring the prayer time together. And I've seen two things result from that. First, my wife and I feel like I've grown closer together and our relationship and our intimacy with each other, which has been wonderful. I've really liked seeing how the Lord speaks to her and speaks through her, and I hope that the Lord speaks to me and speaks through me as well. So that's been a wonderful thing. And second, as we've grown closer together, we've grown closer to God. And I guess it really is. It's kind of like a triangle. God's here, and I'm here, and my wife is here. And as we grow closer to God, we end up growing closer to each other. That's how relationships work. That's how Christian relationships work. So it's been really good to spend that extra time in the morning praying with my wife. And the final thing, the final Corona blessing in my list of 4 things, I was able to plant 3 new flower beds at my house. There's a lot of home projects that I had to do, and I'm sure many of you at home were able to knock out some of those home projects. That's awesome. Congratulations. For me, about 2 or 3 weeks into quarantine, I was standing outside looking at the front of my house, and I thought, wow, my house is not attractive. my house doesn't look good. This is unacceptable. I need to fix this. And I entered into the world of gardening. I've never gardened before. I've never planted a single flower in my lifetime. I'm 36 years old, and I've never taken care of plants or flowers. This was a wonderful experience to step into that world for the first time. So we began by digging up the sod. We poured down the good dirt, and we picked out the flowers, did the mulch, and the whole 9 yards. And it was a wonderful experience. It was a learning experience. I learned as I went by making a lot of mistakes. And that was my little mantra: is it's a learning experience, learning as I go, which means next time I plant a garden, I'll be able to do it a little bit better. And then the time after that, I'll be able to do it a little bit better. But gardening has been a wonderful experience. As I was gardening, as I garden, I reflect on Genesis chapter 1 and 2, where God tells Adam not only to be fruitful and multiply, but also to tend the earth. He tells him to take dominion over the world. Working with plants and gardening and things like that, for me, has been just a little small way for me to take dominion over my own little piece of creation. It's been a wonderful experience. And gardening is a theme that actually runs throughout Scripture. So I've loved participating in that gardening theme. It's really brought a lot of satisfaction to my soul. That's my list of 4 things, my 4 Corona blessings. Wrestling with my own mortality, focusing on the eternal things. Number 2, investing time with my kids. Number 3, being able to pray with my wife in the morning. And finally, planting that garden out in front of my house that I continue to work. What are your Corona blessings? Please leave your list in the comments. I'd love to celebrate that with you. This is Chaplain Stephen Longclaw signing out.